How prepared do you feel college graduates with degrees in graphic design are today?
Well, I think that it depends on what school they went to. And I think that it seems like more and more I'm seeing students that have a lot of education and knowledge of software programs. So I think from that perspective, they're pretty prepared. A lot of students really know the computers, and that seems to be the thing that that I'm impressed with mostly now, I think, with students, is that they really understand computers and the programs and all of that. What I'm not as impressed with is that they use that as a crutch, and that's not the most important thing about the creative industry of advertising or graphic design. I think you have to know more than just how to use a computer. And you still have to think, you still have to design and create in concept. So I don't see that people that put as much effort into that aspect of their books and what they've done in their schoolwork when they come out for a job as they really know the programs, and they'll show you all these things they did with the programs that in many ways it's unimpressive unless it really has some relevant connection to the industry. So it seems like, I do see a lot of really good technical experience. The creative part of it, I don't see as much of that impresses me as the technical side.
I think today, compared to when I graduated, I've seen the students come out of school not a lot more knowledgeable, at least in my perception, with a lot more diversity in skills. Again, they're much more diverse from integrating, print all the way through, web and audio and video and all of these, a lot of talent I've seen is coming out of the schools now. I think really what it is a lot of the focus is on, perhaps technique and technology. I know all the software programs, but, perhaps in, the business side of it, how do you approach a client? How do you deal with a client? How do you pitch, a campaign? I think a lot of that's lacking. But for the most part, if technically apt, students are walking right in and getting down to business, and the rest of it will come. So,
I think college graduates, I'd probably say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably say that most of them are still around 4 or 5. And I think the reason being is that there's so many schools out there, they're almost like just pumping people out in this industry that think that, if I can sit in front of a computer and I can run the computer, I can run these applications, that I have a job, no problem. And that's really not how it works. It's people, I think they're semi-prepared. They're getting the artistic things down, but they're not getting, it's hard. Sometimes I see people who have it so strong in the artistic background, but then in the team spirit and just a good emotional background, it's completely lacking. Sometimes you have it where you've got this great person who has the best personality, then they've got the weakest skills. It's very hard to get that nice balance. I think it's still 50-50, I'd say. It's kind of hard to say. People aren't really understanding that it's a career and it's a job, but it's also a love for this field to be in.
I think they're fairly prepared as far as knowing the programs and knowing the types of pieces that we typically work on. But again, the reality of, I don't sit around all day designing logos, and I've been doing this for 17 years, a long time. And, it's not, hours and hours of time where you get to just loft and go through books and come up with logo designs, and then, another project comes, and, again, it depends on what kind of company you work for, but, you're going to be doing 4 different things at the same time, and you're going to have a stack of jobs waiting for you, to work through. So, just that reality check of it's not focusing only on one job until that job is done, whether that takes 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. You know, you may have 3 weeks to do that job, but there's also going to be 10 other things you're trying to do in between. So it's just learning how the real world actually is.
How prepared do you feel college graduates with degrees in graphic design are today?
I think they're better prepared than they used to be. And I guess I would attribute that to the fact that they're exposed to more sort of modes of communication. You know, there's just more media out there, and part of it might be cultural too, because you know, it seems like every generation people are more and more savvy about marketing and advertising. Because it seems like there's just more and more messages that hit people every day, you know, and that's been happening for 50 years, you know, and it reaches a point where the average person on the street or the average, 8-year-old kid, shopping for cereal with his mom, is savvy about what kind of marketing tactic they're being hit with, when they see something. So, it puts more responsibility on the designer to really get it, as far as, what kind of, to be honest about design. How do you take something that's, somebody's trying to sell you on the idea that, I don't know, aspartame is good for you, First of all, it's a slimy business if you're trying to explain how that's good for you. But but that's the real challenge in design is to how to come up with a creative solution. What associations do you make with the product to make it believable? And it's a tough thing.
Okay. How prepared do you feel college graduates with degrees in graphic design are today?
Well, that's kind of a difficult question to answer, but let's see.
It's all individual, man. I think
Yeah.
there's people who knows a lot more than others. When they graduate. I mean, I think it's impossible to say. Person who at school, doesn't know anything. Or they don't know everything. I mean, like I say, it's always room to learn, but you cannot generalize. It's different. I mean, it's different from every person. I think there are certain things that normally they should know more about, because it's not taught in school as much, like printing, like that kind of stuff, like presenting. Like I think you should have a class, that is 3 months, and they teach you in 3 months how to present something, how to sit and sell something, that kind of stuff, But technical stuff, like a program, how well you know how to use it, or I mean, it's just individual, So
I think you get out of it what you put into it, and there are students out there who, for instance, can take a 2-year program and get more out of it than someone who takes a 4-year program. It really has to do with how motivated you are.
and how much talent you have too.
Yeah, that too, and how determined you are, and how bad you want to do it. And I think you can learn a lot in a short amount of time, or it's a constant learning process. Really, you never stop learning. So to say you have it all at the end of school is a misconception. You never have it all.